Welcome back. Donna Shalala was president of the University of Miami. She helped run the Clinton Foundation, and she was Bill Clinton's Health and Human Services Secretary. Now at 77, she is trying something new, a run to replace Republican Ileana Rawls-Slaton in the 27th Congressional District. In her first interview after declaring her candidacy, Shalala and I spoke earlier this week about the race that already includes 7 other candidates.
You know, I woke up one morning and I turned on the news and I thought, we've got to do something, and do something serious. So I decided to jump into the race. I think I'm the strongest candidate. I think I can serve the people of Miami. I think I could hit the ground running going to Washington. I know something about Washington. I certainly know the issues and the issues the people in this community care about. So I'm ready to go.
So let's talk about that moment, the moment that you see this country in. Describe it for me. What exactly are we facing as a country today?
We're facing the test of who we are. It's so fundamental. It really is about the character of the country and how we treat each other and how we're seen by the rest of the world. I've never in my lifetime seen a time like this in which everything we've worked for our whole lives is at risk because of this president and the failure of the Republican Party to provide the kind of leadership that the country expects and that they promised.
Can you be specific?
Well, let's start with the president. Every place you go on this earth, they wonder what on earth we are doing here in the United States. We're pulling back from our international commitments. We're acting like there's not a global economy. We're beating up women and children with our budgets. Who ever heard of a president that wanted to cut food stamps or Medicaid, or a political party that wanted to cut Medicare? The kinds of announcements that they've made on the environment, on children, on women's health, on women's reproductive freedom are outrageous because we have consensus in the country on those issues, but they've just gone right after them.
You talk about issues. So what are the main issues you're going to be running on?
Well, first, immigration. I'm the granddaughter of immigrants. My mother's side of the family was down here in South Florida, actually in this district, since the end of World War II. My grandmother actually got turned away at Ellis Island. She came around and snuck across the Mexican border. My Lebanese grandmother. If my grandfather had gone with his cousins on the first boat out of Lebanon, I would have been Cuban, because his first cousins went to Cuba. So there are Cuban Shalalas. Every person that is in this country now, the DACA kids, and I know so many of them personally because they're students at the University of Miami, those that get up every day and go to work and have some questions about their immigration status, they ought to find a pathway to become good citizens of this country. We've got to find a way, a fair way of dealing with the immigration question. We have a large number of people in this country that have no chance of getting citizenship, and we have to find a pathway.
So all the roughly estimates are 12 million people.
About 12 million people.
You would find a way for a path for all 12 million to become U.S. citizens?
Absolutely.
Is this not a step down for you to run for Congress?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
What? Because this is a policy-making role, and it's representing one of the great cities of the world. Let's not underestimate the importance of Miami in the flow not only of politics, but in the disparities between what we pay in and what we get back. What I want to make sure, which our governor seems to forget, is that we pay taxes to Washington. We ought to get our fair share back. We have ignored the fact that we've stepped aside on billions of dollars for Medicaid to extend the Medicaid program, which was put in place under Obamacare.
Congress is a place that works on seniority, the House in particular. You come in, if you're elected, you'll come in at the age of 77. How many terms do you think you'll be able to serve?
Well, let's see. My mother practiced law into her 90s. She won the national 80s tournament in her 80s, and she passed at 103. I see a big future ahead of me. And frankly, I'm a senior going to be a senior. And there's, I mean, look, I hit the ground running. I don't have to wait 10 years to work on seniority. I know the leaders of Congress. I know how the system works. I've testified at length. So you're sending someone down who knows all of the issues, who knows the politics in Washington, who's not afraid of anyone, and who's passionate about the people of Miami and about our community.
This district is going to be a Democratic seat. It seems if Ileana Ros-Lehtinen is probably the only Republican who could have held it as long as she did, and Ileana even recognized that she couldn't hold it anymore going forward. It was won by Hillary Clinton by 20 points. So this is going to be a Democratic seat. The only thing that could upset it, though, potentially, is if a candidate were to get in that could become more of a controversial candidate. Isn't that potentially you?
No, absolutely not.
Don't you bring with you the baggage of the Clintons, you know, questions that are going to rise over that, you know, the Clinton Foundation? Aren't you going to become a tool, a foil for whoever the Republican is to raise money? Even some of your fellow Democrats in the race are saying they're going to be able to raise money off of your association with Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Bring it on. They've been friends of mine before they were married, by the way. I had a record before I went into the Clinton administration of great distinction. I had already transformed two institutions, two major higher educational institutions, and I had a reputation after I left. I don't need the Clinton machine. I'm very proud of my relationship with them. I think the Clinton Foundation is extraordinary. I'm going to use the Shalala machine. I know thousands of people in this district. Most of them are quite young because they graduated from the University of Miami.
Talk to me about the Me Too movement. Where are we at today with that?
Oh boy, it's transforming our attitudes about what's acceptable not only in the workplace, in every part of our society. And it's probably the third wave of the women's movement. I would characterize it as that. I can't imagine anything more important. My whole career, I've had zero tolerance for sexual harassment. We've put all the universities I've been at, we've put in place processes to make sure that not only students, but faculty and staff were treated fairly in the workplace. So I have no tolerance for any of that kind of inappropriate behavior by anyone who either works for me or goes to school in an institution I'm responsible for.
Some people hearing that are going to immediately think of Bill Clinton. Should Bill Clinton have resigned?
No.
Even today, looking back on it, because Kristen Gillibrand, the senator from New York, has now come out and said, looking back at it, he should have resigned.
And you know, it couldn't have been a more painful period for all of us. If you look at the front page of the Washington Post during that time, you'll know that the cabinet member that confronted the president was Donna Shalala. And so I told him what I thought about his behavior at the time.
But you stayed.
I stayed. I'll tell you, everybody stayed. And you know why they stayed? Number one, because they didn't want to cause a constitutional crisis, because we had work to be done, because we were serving not just the President of the United States, but we were serving the American people. Do you think it wasn't painful for all of us? It was. But we stayed because we cared about the jobs that we were responsible for and for the people that we served. The people of Miami can expect the same thing from me.
But do you have less moral authority to call out the president for his indiscretions, having been a part
absolutely
of the
not.
But
absolutely not.
You don't see that as a double standard?
I don't see it as a double standard.
You can see my full 25-minute interview with Shalala on our website, including her plans for education, health care, and job creation. We'll be right back after the break.